Students know what to do. Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. That's our universal attention signal here for the school here at South Belton. I guess I'm getting a little bit of feedback here. Well, thank you very much for being here to our annual Beginners Sitting Concert, and we're glad that you're here to see the best kids in school perform. We're going to be introducing each section of the band, starting with the woodwinds on this side, and then we'll end up with the brass, and finally with percussion, and then we'll kind of finish up with a combined piece where all of them will play together. Hopefully you've heard some of these tunes before at home, and we really appreciate everyone being here. This is actually being live streamed online, both video and audio. So I do want to say thank you to Mr. Esther for coming out and helping us set that up. Please give him a round of applause. Also, I'd like to recognize our South Belton administration, and Mr. Ike Hernandez is here from the administration, so we appreciate him. Give him a round of applause. So sit back, relax, and I'm going to turn it over to my associate, Mrs. Moe.
Hello and welcome. My name is Janice Moe, and I'm the Associate Director here at South Belton Middle School. And I want to welcome you tonight to your first sit-in concert. This is a very exciting benchmark that your child and you will celebrate tonight. But tonight I wanted to let you know that the presentation that you see here on the screen is going to be more for you than for the students, in a way to help you know how to support your child at home in their endeavors and practice habits. So a lot of what you'll see up there is to kind of let you know, is what they're doing at home what they're supposed to do? Are they supposed to be just playing on one piece? What does it look like when they practice? What is practicing? So some things that maybe you're not quite sure of if you haven't ever been in a band or been in music education before. This is going to help kind of let you know what our philosophy and our views are for being a band student and a band parent. But the first slide says, if anything, this is a journey that you and your child will go on. It will have its ups and downs, and it will be a great vehicle to prepare your child for life. Long life skills of being independent, working as a team with others, and just to make sure that they have an enjoyable time in what they do. So without any further ado, we'll go to the next slide. So the essentials for a meaningful practice session. We use the word deliberate as a positive word in a way to say, I'm deliberately going to practice tonight. I'm deliberately going to do it because I want to do it. And I had the kids think about when you do something on purpose, whether it be nice or something, silly to your siblings. If you did that on purpose and that's what you chose to do, it's something that you own. And I want them to take their practicing as deliberate practice. And for we as parents, we can help support them in their practicing by making sure that they have a quiet area in home to practice. I can remember when I was practicing, I'd usually get kicked out of my room and I'd have to go into the bathroom to practice. And because my brothers and sister would get mad at me and complain, but I usually ended up practicing in the bathroom. So, if anything, a sturdy chair, making sure that it's not a bed, not some type of piano bench, but a sturdy chair. And then a must is a music stand. Many students did get that with their instrument when they rented it at one of the music stores, but if they did not, that's something we want to encourage you to get, maybe later on, I would say, as a kind of a prize and to meet their little benchmark for their concert. But a music stand is very important. And the instrument, it has to go home daily. So without the instrument home, practicing will not occur. And it can be more troublesome for the brass if they're bigger instruments. We really do our best to make sure that you can take it home or come practice in the mornings and then try to provide home instruments. And then their binder. This is kind of like their toolbox where they keep all of their tools to reading their music. And then lastly, this is something from their iPad called a Tonal Energy app. This is something that the school purchased to put on our iPads to help the students as they practice at home. Basically, Mr. Pooley, would you go ahead and go to the next slide? It looks like this. So maybe take your child's iPad and look for this and maybe kind of play around with it. It's basically a timekeeper. It will help keep them in time, a metronome. It will help keep them in tune. And it will show a happy face when they're playing the note in tune. And it just has many other options that are very, very helpful that I'm a little jealous that we didn't have back in my time when I was in band. And then next, the practice plan. That I like to call now a recipe. Just like any recipe that you can bake at home and use, it can be different. And when you have one, you have a plan, you're more likely to be successful than to just try to do something at the last minute without any type of pre-planning. So what we do is to make sure that your practice records are like recipes. They follow the recipe. Yes, you can kind of change it from here and there, but we want to be sure that we stick to what is on the practice plan from week to week. And then practice logs, we'll have them complete 25 minutes a day, 5 days a week to earn their 100. Anything after that, it'll be 90 for 4 days, 80 for 3 days, 2 for 70, and then afterwards we call home just to see what we can do to help you guys with your time management and getting them to practice. Mr. Holt, you got it. Now, for practicing, this right here is just something for you that we got from a band director's clinic to kind of let us know how we as directors can let parents know what we consider practicing. Sometimes practicing to the students can be just kind of sitting in the room and just making all kinds of crazy noises without really ever playing a song. So what it says here is deliberate, it's systematic, it's highly structured. It's almost kind of scientific. We make sure that what we have them do is going to benefit them. It's something that will serve a purpose later on. Goal-oriented, just kind of everything that is listed there. So that's for you guys to kind of see and read and get an idea. And when should a student practice? So this is the biggest thing, learning the time management, making sure that it's a time of the day where they have high level of energy and the ability to focus versus late at night when they're tired and they're ready to go to bed. And then practice logs for the fluids, they're due every week on a Tuesday until the second to last week of the year. So that's something that will be a weekly assignment, and for brass, theirs are due on Monday. Okay, so Mr. Pooley, do you want to do the rhythm beat? This is something that we do with the students that would be a little interactive and let you guys see how they learn how to be musically literate.
Okay, so we love this program. We purchase it every year, and it's by a guy named Dr. Buzzy Green. That's his nickname. I used to work for him up at the Dallas Metroplex, and this is our posture check. This is what we first started out, and this is what they should be doing every single time they practice. And some of the things that we do, in fact, many of the things here at the beginning especially, the first few weeks of school have very little to do with their instrument because we're trying to establish pulse, we're trying to establish excellent posture, and basically very, very good fundamentals. And so this is a program that we use, and that helps with their foot tap, that helps with their counting, and basically gives them a good sense of pulse. And that's what we want. And usually when we say pulse, we're thinking, well, I went to the doctor and I found out what my pulse was. Pulse is when they're tapping their toe, which we insist that they do that every time that they play. For some students, it's their right foot. For some other students, it's their left foot, depending on their instrument. And so we want to keep that nice and steady all the time. The Tone Energy app helps them do that in time without fail. We don't want them to slow down or speed up. It stays nice and steady. Okay, so students, if you can see up here, I'm going to kind of dim the lights a little bit. And if you need to lower your stands. And we're going to kind of give a little bit of a demonstration on what it looks like for rhythm beat. So some of the norms that we have, the expectations is that our feet are flat on the floor, back away from the chair, chest nice and high, shoulders wide, head is up, and the eyes are front. And when we count at a voice level 3, which is kind of a presentation voice. Okay? So, see how well they do. We started with easy, with just some rests, and now we're going to move to some quarter notes, and we'll take it from there. So that gets the foot moving, locks in the pulse, and as you can see from the brackets, we move from left to right, just as if we were reading a book. The shoe matches their foot tap exactly. And you can kind of hear it in the room. And it's kind of fun if you are at all music literate, or even if you're not, and you want to learn too, you can perhaps do this with them today. So we start out with just basic quarter notes. We also add a pulse. Here we go. 2, 3. Extending the time all the way through. 2, 3. 1, 3. There's our little green man in front. 1, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2. Uh-oh. 2, 3. 2, 3. It's a little entertaining to watch. 2, 4. Watch carefully. 2, 4. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 3. So now the whole moves notes out. And then when it receives the whole note, we call that a dash. Keep going. 1 dash, 2 dash, 3 dash, 4 dash, and etc. So you can kind of see how that works. I don't want to take too much time with that. Excellent job. Let's give them a hand. So you can see, it's just like reading real music. And so we try to simulate it as much as possible with that so that it gets them used to them playing that, which then transfers over very easily. And so if you hear them doing that with their music, that is practicing. It's more mental practice, even though it's not with the instrument. But we teach them that they have to count the music first. If they can't count it, then they can't play it. So we're going to move along to the first period, and we'll start with the woodwind family. And so we're going to start with the flutes over here, and I'm going to hand it back over to Mrs. Mole.
All right, to the exciting part, the playing. So flutes class is first period, first class of the day, and let me tell you what, flute parents, they are sleepy. I almost have to make them shout or do some talking out loud just to get them awake. So they're very sleepy, and I guess they maybe need a little bit more sleep so they can be awake. All right, so here's some pictures here, some things that are really beneficial for the flutist. Being sure that they angle their chair the correct way. It's more at a 45-degree angle. And then making sure that they stand also when they practice. And then you can look at the little feet here where it says right versus the wrong. And then making sure they're guiding their flute forward. Just giving them a lot of tools that they can use to help each other and themselves in their learning experience. All right, so you should see the flutes playing on just the head joint still. That is an exercise to help build their lips and their air and to actually get out different pitches that will help them and extend to their playing of their instrument. And here's some flute play position. It's quite different from what you might have seen in like a marching band where it's more of a right angle. Theirs is going to be a little bit more down as they sit in their chair. All right, flutes, so we're going to go ahead and do your warm-up. So it's going to be your first notes for flutes. So we're going to start on the top, going all the way down, whole notes, then half note in between. Okay, flutes, instrument up, ready, and 1, 2, and set your G. Off, breathe. Off, breathe. Off, breathe. Off, breathe. Off, breathe. So that is their daily warming that they do with their sequence of notes. Give them a hand. Great job, ladies. song is going to be French song. It won't have an accompaniment track in the background. Flute starts on much lower notes, and so in their book that they use, it doesn't come with an accompaniment. So flutes, we're going to begin on your French song, just as we did it in class. Okay, and double check to make sure we're ready. French song, and 1, 2, and set, and 3. Excellent job. Great job, please. All right, flutes will be a little bit away, like you might at Sutton White for the other sections. All right, so ready to go to the exotic instruments, the ones that are not a whole lot of, just a few, and it's going to be the oboe. And they're 6th period, one of my favorite classes because it challenges me as a teacher to really extend myself to know the not common, uncommon instruments. So oboes, they have something along with clarinets and saxophones I call a necessary evil, oboe reeds. And they're like school supplies, they do need to be replaced. And the rule of thumb is to always have good 3 reeds in working condition. And then we do have some that we can sell you at school if you don't have time to go to the store to purchase them. So flutes do an everyday ritual where they soak the reed in a little cap, a little prescription bottle cap, for about 2 minutes in room temperature water. And then they check the reed to see that it is in good working condition. And what they do is a crowing exercise. Their goal is to match a certain pitch. So let's have you crow. Ready? And set and crow. Great. So basically what they're trying to do is match the note C, and their tonal energy app will let them know. Okay, so flutes, oboes, add that on your instrument. More pictures of the oboes where parents, it's just more out, a wider angle than what you would see for like a clarinet. And then the position that they're standing, so we also encourage them to stand when they play. And then they're going to be playing their descending exercise and then followed by lightly row. All right, oboes, so we're going to begin with half notes all the way down without any rest in between. 1, 2, and set, and 3. Good job, all right. So it's just 2 of them, all right. So next you'll be playing lightly row, so make sure your music is out, and then we'll have an accompaniment track, and then we'll get started with your song.
Lesson 5, lightly row. 1, 2, ready, play.
All right, great job. Excellent. Oboe, along with the French horn, is one of the most difficult instruments to play. They have to direct their airstream through the reed, which is the size of like the eye of a needle, and at the same time not have their head feel like it's fixing to explode and wiggle their fingers all in time. And these ladies do a wonderful job, so very good job. All right, moving on to the clarinet class. Clarinets is going to be 12:20 in the afternoon, so this is a great time for clarinets. Once again, the necessary evil, clarinet reeds. It's something that it's a must, and yes, parents, they do have to be replaced. And I say that a lot to clarinet parents because I can remember, I think it's 31, 32 years ago when I was in 6th grade, and I had to ask my parents to buy me another reed. Boy, I tell you, they wouldn't always, give me a smile and say, sure, let's do another one. They would sometimes say, already you wrote that one? And I'm standing next to this gentleman, because this is my father, and he would always say, you really need another reed? Oh my goodness. And back then, they were $1 plus, but that, taught me to really take care of my reeds, and I made sure that I think he's mad at me. I'm in trouble now. So making sure that I made it a goal to teach the clarinetists how to care for their reeds and to make them last as long as they can. And so I say that, and in my other breath, I have a child who is in the clarinet section, and she'll break a reed about every week. And if she just doesn't even get to play on it, it's broken. So it's karma, or just, in the blood. Alrighty, so clarinets, parents, once again, reeds, they want to have good 3 working reeds. And then a daily ritual is making sure that they do their little crowing on their mouthpiece and barrel. Still, that's a great technique. And then moving on to the next slide, where they're building muscle memory. That's a little clarinet picture. That's what I think they look like in class. They're building muscle memory. And then that's what it looks like when they're doing the muscle memory exercises. And then the play position. And then they're going to do their descending F to F. So clarinets, let's go ahead and get set. You might want to make sure your music stand is not too close to you. And you're going to be doing your F to F in half notes without any resting in between. All right, clarinets, looking at all of you. And 1, 2, and set and breathe. Great job. Give them a hand. Okay, in clarinets, now you're going to be playing Merrily We Roll Along, Lesson 4, number 8. Lesson 4, number 8. Remember what we said in class. Release the beast within you as you're playing. Big sounds.
Lesson 4. Merrily we roll along. 1, 2, ready, play.
Great job. Give them a hand. All right, the saxophone class, second period. It's a small but strong group, and we're missing one of their members today. He's been sick, so we're going to be thinking about him and let him watch this when he comes back to school. So once again, I keep saying the reeds, necessary evil, they're so important, but they're one of the first items in their supplies to break and will cause them a lot of delay in their practice. Be glad, brass parents, that you don't have to deal with reeds. You just have to deal with the valve oil. So saxophones, let's go ahead, and there's your little reed assembly diagram for your parents. So they're still working with a portion of the instrument at home. It is just fine that they're doing that. So we do everything in steps, small baby steps. And then we always take more time with the saxes to make sure that their instruments lined up and balanced. And there's their position there. All right, saxophones, you're going to be playing your C to F. Okay, half notes without any resting in between. 1, 2, and set. Here's your C. Excellent job. Give it a hand. Okay, and they're going to be playing the saxophone version of French song. Make sure you have lesson 4, number 4. Okay.
Lesson 4, French song.
Great job, Saxes. Next, we'll turn it over to Mr. Pulley. It's all about the brass, all about the brass. Woodwinds sometimes are just little decorations, and I tell you what, and you know, it's the brass. It's the brass world.
That's right, it's all about the brass. Okay, so for brass family, there's a lot of similarities between instruments. Yes, we do not have to mess with reeds, thank goodness, but we do have to mess with things like lubricants and valve oils and that sort of thing. So as you can see on here for some of our accessories, trumpets, euphoniums, and tubas all need to have valve oil, and they need to keep that up. Hopefully, if they use it sparingly, one bottle that looks about the size like that will get them by for at least 6 months, and maybe even up to a whole school year if they use it sparingly. The slide grease, that's what's going to go on their tuning slide, and that goes for all brass instruments. Now, this is different than a trombone slide, but the tuning slide that usually is at the end, and not the same one for the trumpets that uses a different oil for their what is called saddle slides. So the tuning slides for all the brass instruments, we like to use lanolin, and that's a great product because it doesn't break down if it happens to get a little bit wet, and it stays on there for an awful long time. Sometimes it also comes in a different tuning slide, sometimes also doubles as cork grease. That's fine too. Next slide, please. All right, so we're going to start with trumpets. This year, trumpets, trombones, and euphoniums, unfortunately, were all scheduled in the same class. So it's a pretty large class. It's our largest beginner classes. Normally, all the low brass instruments are put together, and so that's why I have trumpets sit on the front row, and you can see the trumpets here on this front row. This is the highest brass instrument, and you can see the different parts of the instrument there, and that was actually one of their first tests, is to be able to demonstrate and show and be able to tell me what the different parts of the instrument. So if I said adjust your main tuning slide, they know exactly what to do. So you see the 3 dots there, the valve casing, etc. So, what you should be seeing, hopefully, and this is part of their practice plan or recipe, as Mrs. Mole calls it, is buzzing. Okay? So I think let's do that real quick, trumpets. So trumpets are going to take off their mouthpiece, and obviously the size of it is going to be significantly different between this and the tuba. It's quite a bit different. Trombone euphonium is kind of in between. The French horn is a little bit thinner, and the throat is a little bit deeper, and so every brass instrument is unique. Trombone and euphoniums are somewhat similar. They are somewhat similar in their design, but later on, as they move on to 7th and 8th grade, even those mouthpieces do change slightly. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and get set trumpets, and they're going to buzz, and this sounds a little bit like kind of what you heard with the oboes, but kind of a brass version. So, perhaps you'll get it out. That's another thing we always want to say is be careful that you ever see the students that kind of makes a cool sound where they take their mouthpiece and pop it like that and make kind of a cool sound. Unfortunately, it gets it stuck. So that is something that parents sometimes have to deal with and take it to the shop to get it unstuck. Okay, trumpets, let's go ahead and get set, and really whatever note comes out. So form your embouchure, wet lips, set it, and here we go. 1 and 2, just buzz and go. One more time, and 2, and set, breathe. Awesome job. Give them a round of applause. Plug in. Plug in. Okay, so that's the basis. Believe it or not, that's really what makes the different pitches, whether it's a low note, whether it's a high note, or anything in between. That is where it's at. If I had the instrument, and this goes for all the brass instruments, if I had just the instrument without the mouthpiece, it's really just a speaker, and it amplifies what happens with the mouthpiece. So if you see them doing that, they should do that. So really, they warm up on their first notes, warm up twice. One time buzzing to make sure that that's a nice steady sound, and then another with their actual instrument. And this is exactly what professionals do. People who have been playing for many, many years, who are even doctors of their instrument, they do this every single day. And so we want to do the same routine because we want to be good like they are. So that's what you should see, and that's the sounds that you should hear. Also, once again, the Tonal Energy app, it does not require Wi-Fi. That's what I love about this app. And it uses the tone generator portion feature on there. They find their instrument, they hit that note, and then sometimes they can be practicing with earbuds. I'm fine with that. They leave one earbud in and have the other one out so they can hear the sound and basically match that between that and the app. Okay, so this is the trumpet playing position. They should kind of form a C with their right hand. Be careful that you see them, that their fingers are curved nice and high, almost as if they're holding a softball or a tennis ball. Sometimes we get a little lazy and the fingers get a little flat, and they kind of start doing this. So we want to make sure that fingers are curved nice and high. So trumpets go set, please, and shows your excellent right hand position. On the pinky ring, this is a little bit of a misnomer. Most of them think, well, my pinky goes inside. It actually goes on top. We want to try to make it flexible as possible, and so that pinky sits there right on top. Notice how their elbows are out. We want to make sure that they can breathe deeply on either side, and also with a downward angle. We don't want it straight across, just like Mrs. Mullen was talking about with flutes, as it's not a marching band position, at least not for another few years. So we want it at a downward angle, but at the same time, we still have our sitting nice and tall. Okay? Okay, so we're going to start with hot cross buns, and unfortunately you're going to hear this 3 times, so trumpets, go ahead and get that set. Sorry. Okay. All right, remember trumpets, this does not have an intro. Go ahead and set with your fingers. And we're ready. Give them a round of applause. Excellent job. So another thing that we haven't quite talked about yet is that when they have to play certain notes, we actually have to adjust part of it. It actually has a slight slide, right? So as they do this, they extend the slide on some notes. So hopefully these slides should be working very freely. And I have a special oil for that. They don't sell here locally. And so they can get that from me. Also, when you see them play, this goes for all students, we've talked about tapping their toe. Sometimes I always have to remind them, tap your toe. Because if you think about it, it's a lot to do all at the same time. They have to breathe, they have to listen, they have to tongue, they have to tap the toe, they have to move the fingers and do all these things all at the same time. So it puts together a whole lot of different things all at the same time, and so we really learn to be multitaskers. So thank you very much, trumpets. Moving on to the French horn. This is one of the smaller classes that we have, which is a good thing because, as Mrs. Mullen mentioned, oboe and French horn are one of the hardest instruments that we have. Students have to have really good ears. Notice how this is a little bit more complicated. It still has 3 valves, but these are now rotary valves. And then it also has a 4th, what we call a trigger or a thumb valve. This instrument is played with the hand in the bell. Horns, go ahead and get set, please. So notice how they have it resting on their right leg. Sometimes we have to kind of make that right leg out just a little bit, depending on their size and how tall they are, and the instrument actually plays across from them. It's difficult because there's about 10 notes that they can play with all the same finger. And so it's rather difficult to make sure that they're locking in on that exact correct note. Also because of that, there's a lot of water that kind of builds up within that, and so some of that's sometimes a little bit difficult. So, but they're a great class. I love having them to finish out the day with such a great class, and they're doing very well this year. So, once again, they're using rotary oil, much like valve oil, slide grease once again. So just like what we had. This is what they should look like as they're sitting and playing. We haven't got to standing yet. They're not quite ready for that. We'll get that later on as they grow a little older. All right, so once again, hot crossbones, but this one's in a different key because of the key of the instrument. Ready? Here we go. Can't find it. There it is. Yeah. Yeah, and then just arrow down. There we go. Set. Give them a round of applause. So with brass, it's always very important that they follow through with their notes. As you kind of notice what the students are, is they're kind of freezing at the very end because we certainly don't want them to play and then all of a sudden put their instrument down. It's not only not visually disciplined, but it also affects the sound. And so we kind of make sure they follow through and then they kind of freeze a little bit and then they return to their resting position. Trombones. Okay, once again, this is the same class period as the trumpets, and this is my favorite instrument because it's the instrument that I play. It's the only instrument that does use a slide. It does not have any valves unless you use a valve trombone, but we don't believe in that here. So we only have the slide trombone, outer slide. Now, the one thing that's really, really important, I think it's probably on the next slide, is to have them use Slide-O-Mix Rapid Comfort. This is the best thing that trombones can get for their slide. If they put valve oil on there, it's okay. But the Slide-O-Mix Rapid Comfort will run about $10 and it will keep them for the entire year. And then also it's best to get them a little spray bottle, just like from the gardening section of Walmart or wherever. And it's a little spray bottle that kind of mists and it kind of beads up and it makes it really, really slick. So they should not feel like it's very hard to move the slide at all because we want it nice and smooth all the time and effortless. And so if they don't have that yet, I strongly encourage you to please get that as soon as possible so that they can have that. That works way better than the oils that they do have. Once again, slide grease for the other part, and that comes in 2 different forms. Then it also combines with the euphonium class. Now, the different word sometimes we use for euphonium is called a baritone, and that's actually a slightly different instrument. Euphonium is a conical instrument, which means it's a little bit more dark, a little bit more deep. Some of the students know it as the baby tuba, because it's a lot like a tuba, and it's just the mini version of that. It looks much like a trumpet in terms of the valve, but obviously it's held a little bit differently. They use valve oil, like we've already mentioned. And there's the trombone playing position there. Once again, at a downward angle. Trombones go ahead and get set, like we're getting ready to play. Once again, you should not see them doing it straight across. Elbows should be out. I always like, and this is important, parents, if you can help me with this, they should have their slide, notice, on the left side of their stand. And that way they can see it with their eyes to the right, and it doesn't muffle their sound to where the bell is right into the stand. Does that make sense? So that's really, really important that they do that, okay? And also their wrists are out. Here's another of the standing position. This is, we can stand with the trombone as well, although we're just focusing on sitting right now. Euphonium, the hand wraps around, just like you see here. And then they also have a feature song. We're actually going to do this with the tubas, so trombones, you can relax. And let's talk about tuba. This was an old slide. They're actually now with 63. And once again, it's a lot like the euphonium. It's just a lot bigger. These particular tubas have 3 valves. And next year they'll have 4. Same thing with euphoniums. This year they have 3 valves. Next year there'll be a silver one with 4, and it's a little bit bigger instrument. So the big thing also, like we talked about with trumpets for both euphonium and tuba, is the 3 valves, making sure that their fingers are curved nice and high as if they're holding a ball. If they get flat fingers like this, they actually can damage the instrument because the stem inside the valve will bend and they'll be really, really slow going up and down. And so we want to make sure we keep those fingers curved nice and high. Once again, valve well and slide grease. So now, all low brass together, we're going to do hot cross buns because you didn't hear it enough already. Okay, so all low brass together. So we've got trombones here a little bit towards the front, euphoniums kind of in the middle, and tubas, which are one of the most important instruments that we have because it's the foundation. Kind of like with a house, you got to have the foundation first, otherwise the whole band kind of comes crashing down. Okay, here we go, low brass. Ready? You're set? It's all right. I didn't make it easy for you. Do the command tab. There it is. All right, we're ready? You're set. Give them a round of applause. Excellent job. Excellent. All right. So, you've heard from the flutes, the oboes, the clarinets, the saxophones, the trumpets, the horns, the trombones, the euphoniums, the tubas. We do have percussion here. Now, I do want to apologize. In our scheduling this year, percussion parents, we neglected to look at the football schedule. And as we know, football is king. And so with the football schedule, unfortunately, their teacher, Mr. Knight, could not be here because they have a game tonight. So percussion, go ahead and stand up. When we teach percussion, we don't just teach the drums. Obviously, we have some snare drums and bass drums here, but we also teach the mallet instruments as well, xylophone, marimba, vibes, and also the bells. They haven't got to that portion yet. They usually spend a little part of the year on maybe 9 weeks on the battery part, which is the drums, and then they kind of go back and forth. Also, we also have timpani and all the other instruments that go along with that. So some of the things that they've learned include something like a single stroke roll. They do 8 on the hand and all that sort of thing. So here in about a couple of weeks, we're going to have an exclusive time just for these percussionists. It's looking like it's going to be Monday, November 7th at 6 o'clock. So if y'all could check your schedule for that date, Monday, November 7th. If that's a problem, let me know, and we'll reschedule that, because it's really important that we get all of us here today, percussion only, so that you can not feel like you're left out. So I do apologize that we had to make a teacher change with that, and with that, the date kind of got messed up. So, we're ready for Rockstar. Hopefully you've been hearing this at home. They have their own recording online that they've been playing with. So everybody get your stand set up. You should be wet. Okay. Brass, did we remember to check something before we moved on to this? Water. So that's another thing that's a little bit different from woodwinds is that brass develop condensation. It's not spit. no matter what the witnesses try to tell you. It is condensation. So just as if you were fogging up your glasses or fogging up inside of a school bus, it has water molecules and vapor in the air, and you can write your name. It's the same thing. We have a piece of cold metal and warm air goes in that, so water develops. So when they start playing, you hear the gurgle, gurgle, gurgle sound, it's because they need to empty their water key, or in the case of the French horns, they have to kind of do this steering wheel back and forth to find the water to make sure we get all the gurgles out. And so that's kind of part of a brass instrument. But they don't have to mess with reeds, so it's a trade-off. So everybody's got Rockstar ready to go. And right now, they're going to show you their check position or the ready position, okay? Because the first 4 measures of this has just a background, and then we're all going to play all together. So this is like the grand finale, parents. So once again, thank you for being here. We'll have some closing comments at the end. And then once again, we really appreciate you being here. This is a big moment. So get everything set for your cameras and camcorders and everything ready to go for the big moment, Rockstar. There it is. Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We really appreciate your help. And please remember that in band, we're not just trying to make them superior musicians, we're trying to make them superior people. Both with our 5 core principles of being punctual, prepared, disciplined, relentless, and ultimately superior, which is our goal for them both musically and personally. So thank you very much for coming tonight. We really appreciate it. Have a good night.